We are live. Welcome to Taking Live's Thoughts film. So, a couple of quick, let's see, stuff I've watched that's similar to this. I have watched Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Bone Collector, and Seven, but it's been a while. Have not read the book, and Wikipedia says it's a loose adaptation anyway. If you just read the novels, Wikipedia plot summary, Ethan Hawke's character is investigating someone whose identity has been taken by the killer. He isn't the killer himself. It kind of sounds like the character of Costa in the book is basically what they, was turned into Scott, Ileana Scott. So, if you don't care about these disclaimers, I try to keep them short and relevant, but your mileage may vary. You can skip right ahead to the first section of the description box, or any section really. This contains spoilers, and yeah, I mean, I have kind of already spoiled the book as well, so there you go. I might spoil the book as well, even though I know almost nothing about it. So now, following is a short list supplied by IMDb's More Like This list of movies that are similar to this, and yes, so The Bone Collector, which I remember thinking was okay, Changeling, which I love, I mean, I guess it's there because both star Angelina Jolie, they really don't have a lot in common. I mean, both deal with mental health, I guess. Anyway, that's an amazing movie. Probably not gonna do a video on it because it's just so devastating, just so, it's horrible what this woman had to go through. Anyway, Salt, which was fine, and again, really the only connection is, yeah, anyway. Wanted, which I'm not really a fan of. Tomb Raider 1 and Girl Interrupted. Yeah, most of these are just because she stars. The Bone Collector is the only of these that really are very similar, but then that's sometimes you don't. Sometimes the more like this list is not particularly helpful. But yeah, I like the first Tomb Raider movie. I haven't watched the other ones, and I remember Girl Interrupted as being good. And I record this as soon as I can get to the computer after watching the movie. I think I will swear in this video, and certainly I'm going to talk about some of the material in it that got it the age rating that it got. This is not a review. This is a series of, well, thoughts. Some of it is analysis, some of it is MST3K, riff tracks, and other jokes, as are especially jokes in the first section. Thoughts that I had while watching, those in chronological order, as well as before watching, separated into the first two sections, time codes in the description box. And then the final section, I get into stuff I think it is worthwhile to get into on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Wikipedia. And for recording this vlog, I had read all of it, though I may have forgotten some of what I read by, by the time of recording. Since some of these, some of this stuff I read, weeks ahead, sometimes months ahead. And if you're not interested in the contents of all three sections, I invite you to only watch the ones you are interested in. And I'm not currently planning on doing a regular review for this, but maybe I will at some point. So, this video is not me saying I'm smarter than you or know more or know better than you, the stuff I say in this video. I'm not saying that only I could or have thought of it. It's just stuff I want to talk about and think others would enjoy listening to. I made this video to discuss an issue that doesn't affect me or doesn't affect me as much as it does certain minorities. I'm not trying to lecture those that it affects. In part, I'm speaking to others who are not in those minorities, so we can better empathize with those minorities, and in part, I am expressing my interpretation of the material without claiming it's as valid as the interpretation of members of the minorities. So, when I talk about the quality of what I'm doing a video on, I try to strike a good balance between being appreciative of both intentions and results, criticizing things I generally feel should be criticized, and I try to judge the subject on its own terms. This movie is not trying to... I think this movie, it's trying to tap into the same kind of stuff as Seven. I don't think it's necessarily trying to dethrone Seven as, the absolute king of this subgenre. So, you know, I don't necessarily think that it's, I'm gonna try to avoid saying this and this thing is not as good as Seven, because I don't think the filmmakers thought it was either. Just, you know, there are other things you can criticize. So I define a good movie as one where the good outweighs the bad, and vice versa for a bad movie. This can mean that a movie otherwise mostly good or bad, or consider actually overall bad or good. And this particular movie, I mean, I guess you could say it's basically average, leaning towards bad, and yeah. And I will 100% admit, from a technical standpoint, it is well made. So, let's see. I got this on sale, so anything negative to say in this video is not out of bitterness. I also don't feel like my time was wasted or something. The movie was essentially what I expected from the trailers. You know, I guess I maybe expected to enjoy it a little more. I thought it was a little too over-eager to try, you know, the red herrings and such, you know, which is, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to spoil Seven. Let me just briefly, I'm not spoiling any other movie than and currently I'm not intending to. If I do spoil any other movie, I will warn you before I do it, and I'll probably like hold up an index finger or something so that you can just mute and skip ahead if you don't want to hear the spoiler. But at the end of the day, you know, Seven, I guess, yeah, I mean, I can't really go into that without spoiling. Yeah, this is not a spoiler. The movie Seven is not really trying to constantly, like, get you feel like, oh man, this is the most clever movie ever made. It is a clever movie, but it's not constantly like, but this movie is. And I think that gets kind of obnoxious. And it's also just, at the end of the day, like, it's not that difficult to trick the audience when you, like, there are so many things in this movie that are there just to try to convince the audience that the twist is going to be something else, you know. Now, let's see. So, I watched some YouTube videos about this movie before watching. I did not watch any special features on DVD, Blu-ray, or the like. My DVD does not come with me. The version of the movie I'm going off for this video is the unrated director's cut. I have not watched the theatrical version. I forgot to note when I first watched this. I think, I mean, I guess I could, it's been a few years. I guess maybe 6 years or something since I first watched this, and this is my second viewing. You know, I watched it just before hitting record. Now, let's see. Me making jokes, and this should not necessarily be taken as me think I'm joking about. Yeah, usually here I say, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean I think it's bad. And this I mostly do think it's bad. But anyway, it shouldn't be taken as me wanting to make light of the subject. Excuse me, I simply find it very difficult not to mystify and overanalyze everything I watch and play. Yeah, for this, a lot of the jokes are about, like, really cliche and ridiculous elements. And, yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, if, you know, if something I say about gore, sex, nudity, and the like in this video doesn't make sense to you, it's probably because you watched the theatrical version, you know. So I looked at a comparison between the two versions, and I will be making a few points about it in the second section. Now, I do not have a problem with violence and gore in general. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies in general. I also love Cronenberg's The Fly, Videodrome, etc. I don't have a problem with film sexuality, nudity, disturbing, and upsetting material in general. Monster is one of my favorite movies. And yeah, so let's see. My own quote-unquote film critic rating for this, I think, is at the end of the day a 5 out of 10. I just, I would feel bad about rating it less than that, lower than that, because it is technically well made, but I just cannot in good conscience give it more than that, because it is such, just, I feel like it doesn't really offer anything. Like, let's say that you really, you don't want to watch Seven, but you want a serial killer thriller starring Angelina Jolie. Just watch The Bone Collector. I remember that as being much, much better than this. It's just, yeah. And my personal rating, yeah, also 5 out of 10. And yeah, so brief off-topic thing. Just a few days ago, I guess 3 days or something by now, Tucker Carlson said something on his show that I think is extremely revealing and can be useful for people who don't yet think that he's doing propaganda. I'm not saying that it wasn't already extremely clear he was doing propaganda. I'm just saying the clip is just such an incredibly bold example of it. I'm not going to ask you to go watch it. I guess on Fox News's. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure Fox News has a YouTube channel. I don't know if Tucker has his own, but I'm not gonna. You shouldn't give Fox hits, Tucker hits. But Young Turks, they show the full context in their video. Tucker Carlson, America is a very bad place and it's your fault. Here are my suggestions for those who still believe Tucker Carlson, and whether you watching this video right now still believe Tucker Carlson is telling the truth, or I'm also talking to you if you already know, but you know someone that still doesn't, and you want to show, you want them to see this clip. Find the Young Turks video, watch the clip, including especially the actual, what's it called, the children's show, Sesame Street, I want to say it's called. I didn't watch it as a kid. It doesn't really mean much to me. I'm glad it's teaching good messages. Anyway, then continue to watch the clip. Watch Tucker say what he interprets the show as meaning. And if you don't immediately at first realize how clearly he is intentionally misrepresenting what's in the clip, watch it again. And if it makes you angry, whether you're on the left or on the right, take a deep breath, maybe do something else in the meantime, and then watch it again. And keep repeating these steps until you realize just how warped his interpretation of material is. Just how obviously that is not what was actually said on the show. Him actually showing it instead of just summarizing what was said is very useful for showing the filter that he puts reality through. Like, I'm not really surprised, but it is just, I'm glad that he's provided us on the left with such a useful tool for pointing out, because it is just, that is not what they said on the show. It's not remotely what they said on the show. And the fact that he, again, I'm 100% certain that he knows that he's misrepresenting it. But just, I get that a lot of people, which is why I say, take a break, take a breath. Both of those. What he says after the children's show bit, what he says, when he's trying to summarize, that is legitimately, like, really, that can be angering to listen to, but when you actually, like, that there are actually right-wingers out there who listen to that clip of Sesame Street and hear what Tucker said. And it is very important. The only way we're ever going to win the culture war, not actual war, obviously, the only way we're going to convince these people that they're wrong about these things is to understand what they hear when they look at like reality, because just there was nothing offensive in the Sesame Street clip, just nothing. I'm not saying I haven't watched, like I said, I haven't watched it. Maybe there are messed up things said in some Sesame Street, clips. I don't know, but that wasn't it. Just you can watch the clip for yourself. That's just not what's being said. Anyway, that only took me 16 minutes to get to the first section, which is, of course, rightly called. I'm buying time here. Notes taken while watching. I have a number of thoughts on the first scenes, the ones with Paul Dano, and most of them are going to be in the next section. Good music in the opening. They use several different pieces of music in the Paul Dano segments, and yes, good music. I do kind of respect that the first 4 minutes of the movie, we don't really feel like it. Sorry, it does. The movie does not really feel like a serial killer movie. So if someone was like, let's say that they randomly the movie comes on and on TV, and they're like, you know they're not really paying attention to, like, let's say, yeah, just yeah, randomly they're flipping channels, and they hit on this, and sometime in the first 4 minutes, and they don't they don't know that it's taking lives, and they watch, like, they might kind of get into the movie thinking that this is going to be like a thoughtful drama, maybe in fact it's going to focus on Paul Dano for the entire movie rather than aging him up. Again, after 4 minutes, I don't know. Was Paul Dano not a big name in 2004? Was he not even? When I looked this up on Wikipedia, I'm not sure that his name was even on the Wikipedia page. I forget. I might be thinking of something else, but just like Paul Dano's an incredible actor. I've seen him do just give such compelling performances. It is just, but they're I don't know. It's possible he was a big deal in 2004, and they're doing like what they do with Kiefer Sutherland in this movie. They're casting a huge talent in a tiny role to make you think you're going to see more of that character, and or that they're going to be more relevant than they actually are. Kiefer Sutherland is just nothing but red herring in this movie. And let's see, but no, I can kind of respect that the movie just really made. Did the trailer might have done a similar thing, just showing the opening parts, and then bam, Paul Dano kills two people in just a few seconds, just yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the guy in the car that crashes also dies. Not, there's the military kid that he murders, but I think the guy in the crash car, we're told, also died from that. Anyway, honestly, the first section of the movie, again, the Paul Dano portion, legitimately would make so much more sense if, excuse me, either Paul or military school kid were like psychics who would accidentally crash cars when they got upset, a la young Jean Grey or something. It is absolutely absurd that so many cars break down in such a short amount of screen time without any real explanation. You know, I'll 100% grant that third one should crash. A person thrown in front of it, the car's gonna crash. But the fact that it goes flying like that is absolutely ridiculous. Like if you haven't watched this movie in a while, go back and actually watch that. You know, it's first it's just, oh, the bus, breaks down, the yeah, one of the wheels goes, and then the car they rent stops, you know but then that third one legitimately goes like flying through the air, and it's like, and this is where I know there are going to be people who say I shouldn't judge DJ Caruso for this movie. I should judge the screenplay. I forget who wrote it. The car going flying is one of the reasons that I blame DJ Caruso. Not for everything wrong with the movie, but for a lot of it. And just, even if he didn't have, like, it's not like it was his first movie. He had made movies that people liked before this one. I'm pretty sure that that movie, what was it called, with Shia LaBeouf? I'm pretty sure that one was several years before this. And I don't think I've ever, I think everyone I've ever heard mention that movie said they like Disturbia, I want to say it's called. I mean, not everybody says it's a masterpiece, but I can't think of a single person I've heard mention it and say that it's not at least a good movie. I've never heard anyone say it's an outright bad movie. I'm not saying, obviously if you do think that, you're entitled to that opinion, and I haven't watched it, so I couldn't say one way or the other, but, like, as a director, you have a certain amount of control over, you don't have to film everything that's in the script exactly the way it's written. Maybe it wasn't his idea. Maybe the script says the car goes flying. I mean, honestly, it goes flying about as much as that's, I mean, that's not really a spoiler. It's in the trailer. Nah, never mind. Anyway, so excuse me. The car didn't have to go flying like that. It's just, it looks ridiculous, and it's one of the first things we see in the movie. So it just, right then and there, you're told this is going to be a ridiculous movie. Again, like, it has been many years since I watched Seven, and I'm not sure I've watched it more than one. Honestly, might have been like 1999 that I watched it. So 20, 21 years, something like that. I'm almost 100% certain that there isn't a single thing in that movie that is as ridiculous as the flying car and so many other things in this movie. And I get it. Seven kind of created the subgenre. Like, I'm not sure it was the very, yeah, Sounds of the Lambs definitely came before it, but Seven added some substantial things to the subgenre, so it didn't have to go ridiculous to make an impression. This movie was made after Seven, so it felt it had to go ridiculous to make an impression. But if you can't make your movie work without getting ridiculous, maybe you should be making a different movie, and just, I realize not everybody gets to choose what movies to work on, but just, yeah. I swear I'm trying to give this movie the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe I was unreasonable hating the first time I watched it. And in the opening credits, when we see, a contact lens be put in tonight, I don't hate that visual. It's like, it's slightly off-putting. But then the editor goes and flips the shot 180 degrees, so it's upside down. Just, why would you do that? Like, was he trying to get fired, and for some reason they kind of liked what he did there, so they kept it in? Just, yeah. And the opening credits close with directed by DJ Caruso. Thanks for the warning, man. One man deserves, well, not the credit, but one man deserves the blame, and DJ Caruso is his name. Officer, I need help. Please get me out of this movie. It's good to see you again, Ileana. I'm glad you're here. A lot more people are going to watch this movie with a name like you attached. I tried to yell, I don't know, stop, something dumb like that. I think you're going to find him very empathetic to your problem. You're both working off the same lousy script. I'm Special Agent Ileana Scott. Special agent. See, even the characters realize that it makes no sense for an FBI agent to be in Canada. He had such bright eyes. Both lips of the heart. I saw the man who did this. That is to say, you've seen him. I didn't hate the little bit of dialogue about, it owes me $90 for the phone bill in there. Are you gonna pay my phone bill? That's perfectly decent little bit there, and they open the door and, well, someone's a fan of plastic. I know it's about, so there's no DNA evidence. It's just, it looks ridiculous. I should put like a counter of like, it's a ridiculous element in this movie, but I'm gonna try to use some synonyms so it doesn't become quite as clear just how many times I say that in this video. I'm not saying that this movie had to be realistic. I'm not saying that the movie Seven is entirely realistic. I think I did maybe like cracked point out like some of the plot points. Like if you really stop and think, like abridged script. I think the editing room's abridged script, and I can't really quote them without spoiling parts of that movie. But if I recall, it's one of the really great scripts. So, go ahead and read that if you watch the movie or you don't care about spoilers for it. I'm not saying it has to be 100% realistic. I'm just saying because it's so ridiculous, it makes the movie harder to enjoy unironically. Like if you're watching this and you're like playing drinking games, that I can understand, but I don't think it was made to be. If this movie was like secretly a parody, I could totally respect that. But I feel like then they should have made it more obvious that it was. But like, yeah, some of the things in this, you really wouldn't have to change very much for it to work as a parody. I mean, I'm going to try not to harp too much on just cliches that are kind of tired, like when they first hear that there's going to be an FBI agent, and they're like, we're handling this case, and just the dead body popping in like that, that's right out of a fun house. Two cops outside the gallery, that's not a coincidence either, right? Does that bother you? Does that bother you? They're not touching you. Did you get any responses to the sketch? I mean, I'm up for rewriting it, though there are a couple of jokes in there that I definitely want to keep. How long does it take to dig up a body? Only one smash cut. How about a headstrong FBI agent who's just not familiar with the rules? Did her character just achieve self-awareness? She's commenting on the tropes out of the script just like I am. Once we realize there's actually someone under the bed in the hidden room, it really makes no sense that Ileana has to push hard on the doors to get in there as if they haven't been open for a while. I don't know, is there supposed to be a secret passage or something? Like, they later say that, oh, he came in through the second story window. So, just, yeah. That's all that was stolen, and then later the line, you're kidding me. These kinds of lines I don't know, are they supposed to make the movie immune to criticism for how ridiculous these things are? I can kind of respect that. Try not to get riled up. It's just a movie. It's not that big of a deal. Excuse me. What compels you? Power of Christ, right? And the cop goes up and knocks on the glass. Walk you to the door, Mr. Costa? The jump scare is free of charge. It's taxpayer money. I just got a note. It says, meet me in the men's room. Someone dropped off a note in the ADR booth. I guess they realized in post-production that it would be ridiculous for him to, just not tell them about the note and just go in there. Yeah. What's going on here? It's the camera tripod. One of the legs is broken. It's him. I mean, they cast Kiefer Sutherland. In universe, he might as well have a big. He might as well be wearing a big red suit with words "I am the suspect" written across it. It's a fucking mob scene, and it's so fucking obscene. Obscene. The movie does move fairly fast. There's always a dead body, a crime scene, a suspect. There's always something going on. Costa being used as bait. Yeah. I thought you understood our relationship, but let me explain. Let me keep it nice and vague so that in case there's some audience watching us right now, don't realize that I'm not the serial killer. I mean, this entire scene is just there to make it seem more believable that Kiefer Sutherland is the serial killer. Why doesn't Costa handle the situation more aggressively? There are no witnesses right then. Just it seems like Kiefer Sutherland might almost like badly hurt him. Why would he allow for that? You know, when Kiefer Sutherland is in the what's it called in the front seat, that's taking a huge risk. He could have been discovered. Yeah, as he was pulling that off, just as much as he could have been discovered when he's inside the what's it called loft apartment, whatever. And yeah, actually, yeah, once you've watched the entire movie, you do realize ultimately he does handle it. It just, for some reason, he waits, like, I don't know, a minute from when he first realizes Kiefer is in the room with him before he actually kills him. And it's like, why didn't he just do it immediately? And it wouldn't even have mattered as far as the cop goes because he shoots him. Actually, yeah, when we see, like, the flashback, isn't it that he already did kill Kiefer Sutherland before killing the cop? So, yeah. I saw in at least one user review, someone said the car chase feels tacked on. I can see what they mean. It does really feel unnecessary to the movie. I I think the microphone on the camera cuts off that sound almost immediately. But if you can hear like a low hum, I do have a fan. A regular Snipes De Niro, co-star, yeah, running since all the lights for the yeah make the room kind of hot. So yeah, that's what's going on with the hum. I don't really have much to say about the sex scene. The movie itself doesn't need it, although obviously if the two characters didn't have sex, I guess, someone would have said it could have happened off screen or something, but, the pregnancy fake out in the ending, you couldn't have that without a sex scene either on screen or off screen. I feel bad for actresses who feel they have to show nudity, and again, like, even back, like, I'm almost 100% certain that people already knew that she was a really great actress when, yeah, in 2004 she had been in stuff that, so it just, yeah, anyway, but, I don't know. In case she herself is fine with it, that's also fine. The bit with the blood on the bed, that's actually because the stitches open up. That's not an absolutely terrible. I mean, it kind of reads like when John Carpenter first wrote Halloween, he said that I forget exactly how many. I was it maybe like every 6 minutes or something there should be something scary in the movie. This kind of felt like they had to write in something scary because it's real. And then the bit with like Costa going, "Ow!" and then it cuts, and then we see, oh, he's getting an injection. That is a crazy underreaction for like. Does he just? He must be really comfortable with syringes because that is a very small. When he was when he was being directed as to how much to react, he didn't know exactly what they were going to use as an insert shot, did he? Maybe he thought that they were just going to like poke at the wound or something, and that's why he reacts. Because that is a way underreaction to that. Anyway, and then it's like the doctor's like buried this needle in his arm. Like, oh, sorry, just I think you may need to get better at warning patients before you stab them with like anyway. I guess it's just supposed to be like a red herring that Martin now is talking about getting together with Ileana, since up to this point all he's wanted was to live somebody else's life. This wasn't part of the pattern before, or is it just supposed to be like, oh, he really fell in love with her, and that's like, I don't know, it just seemed like it's such a risky thing to do. Yeah, yeah, I get, and I mean, when he was doing that, he actually does like just a few minutes later, we see he's killed his mother, and he does that in an elevator, so it's not like he can't possibly have thought he was going to be able to just easily get away with that. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of how the you know obviously the mother should not be touching the dead body, but like her having a strong reaction to seeing a dead body, and like basically she's there to identify whether this is her son or not. And I know Olivia Martin's character is supposed to be a jerk, but it's still really just, yeah, he shouldn't be saying that. It's completely understandable that she's upset. So did the mother not see Martin in the elevator, or not care, or what? It's just like, it didn't have to be like that, you know that, right? Like, it there are so many of, I would have super respected if the movie, like, if the camera panned up and like there's a tile in the ceiling of the elevator that then gets moved out of the way, and legs, but and it moves, and you hear someone drop down, and then he stands up into frame, and it's Martin. That would have been, but just like, did she not see him there? Because he looks a lot like her son, and she was just in the mindset of identifying her son. So it really seems like just I really don't know why they didn't. Or actually, you know what? Let's say that the when she walked into the elevator, he's like got a newspaper, like he's reading a newspaper, so he's not, so she doesn't see him, and then we see him lower it, and then it's got the hi mom or hi mother, hello mother, or something like that, But it didn't have to be so. I mean, he wasn't even really hiding, or was it just weirdly cut? And originally he was supposed to be hiding, and excuse me, they couldn't make it work in the editing room. I don't know. It's such a badly done moment as a. I barely even understand why they didn't just have. She gets into the elevator, and she goes down the floor, and when she arrives at the floor, or yeah, or the yeah, she takes the elevator, she's on her way out, and then it stops at a floor, and the doors come open, and he's standing there facing her. I would have an easier time accepting that he somehow knew which elevator she was going to take and what floor to make it stop on, or something like that. Actually, yeah, if like the elevators are next to each other, so all he has to do is be standing at the let's say it's one floor below or something. He can see the light thingy light up when one of the elevators is moving, and either that's his mother, or it's like hypothetically, if it's someone else, he can just press, like, it doesn't it all it doesn't make that much more sense that he's already yeah, because him already standing in the elevator, so he knew. Or was there only one elevator? I feel like, whatever, just okay, if there's only one elevator, obviously there's no, like, it's, so was he just standing in the one elevator there for like however long? No, just, they didn't have, it didn't have to be this way, this movie could have been so much better with excuse me, with these minor little adjustments. I sometimes catch myself almost using the word tweaks, because when I hear the word tweak, I think, oh, it's like a small adjustment of a thing. But then once I used it with this other person, and to them, the word tweak means when you're freaking out because you're on drugs. So they had no clue what I was talking about, and that's, yeah. I mean, honestly, this movie at times does read like it's, I'm if the person who wrote the, or people who wrote the script were on drugs, I might explain a few things. And Martin already found a new identity. Just like he goes to the train station or whatever, and just immediately there's a guy, same height, same build, just and he has a easy way to get in contact with him with the these your cigarettes, and just what you need to do in that situation is just, yeah, that's a bad joke. Anyway, so the and then he's like getting information out of himself. So you're married? Okay, just the sisters then, and they live. Oh, and that's where you're from. Okay, because just look, I could totally respect if, like, at the end of the movie there was some like clear indication, oh, he can read minds. That's how he can get like, or he can like make people eh, give up information that they otherwise wouldn't. Like he had just, they didn't have to have such like you know, one of the things that really bothers me, again, it's not the fact that it's unrealistic. I don't necessarily want one of these movies to be realistic. Again, there's definitely unrealistic stuff in Seven. Don't at me. But it doesn't make him look hyper competent. It makes him look like the luckiest person on earth. It's just, and again, if that was like his superpower, I could live with that. But it's supposed to take place in the real world, and it's just people this anyway, yeah. In something close to the real world. Certainly there's no indication of superpowers. And honestly, I could respect if this new guy was like secretly planted by the cops and like for he accidentally has like a tell, he doesn't have a good enough poker face, so Martin does get the drop on him, and then when he kills him he's got like oh, the guy was clearly wearing a wire or something, it's just because the way he's behaving, just nobody acts like that. It's so like, yeah. And Olivier hits Scott. I really despise that, and I guess I'm not gonna spend forever talking about it. It's just, it's really messed up. Ethan Ham is quite fun as Martin once we know that that's him. And Scott realizes some of the stuff that Costa like set up to make it look, and near that bit concluding, Costa grunts like 3 times, absolutely hilarious. Like I'm not gonna be able to do them justice, but it's incredibly entertaining to just, yeah. I think they're supposed to be intense and like intimidating or something, but just, yeah. And then we have like a brief chunk of the movie where it's not a crazy long time, but it's just a ridiculous, like the camera is constantly hiding the baby bump, and just like it reminds me of one of those, like, there's I forget who, but someone was joking about how obvious it is, and just like there's constantly something between the camera and her baby bump, so yeah. We hear the whine of the kettle, and I just want to reassure you, the movie's almost over. You have a gun on the underside of the bathtub? What are you thinking? And then I saw that your belly was growing. I mean, did they just every so often sneak her a bigger fake baby bump, and then, just in case that he was watching, and then, smuggle the old one out? Just, it's so ridiculous. It's just such nonsense. I don't know who you are. Now she's got amnesia? Stand up. She hasn't prepared a set, though. I guess you can ad-lib one. I realize that Scott figured that he would stab the baby bump, but if he stabbed her literally any other part of her body, he very likely would have, like, it's possible she wouldn't have died immediately, but he definitely would have taken her out of commission and would have been able to finish her off. And although I mean, they are the unbelievably lethal scissors are for sure death, because like she stabs him. They don't even look like they go that deep in. Like, I don't know how much the people making this know about biology, but that's like there's like stabbing someone in the heart like that, and I don't know from experience, apparently is like kind of difficult, because the like you got all these ribs in the way that evolution saw fit to, try to protect us from the. It's just, I don't even know what, like, again, 100%, this movie would have gotten more respect from me if she had just, like, straight up stabbed him in the eye or the temple or something. But stabbing in the chest like that, and certainly, yeah, he wouldn't have died that quick, even if she hit the heart, he dies much quicker than. And I mean, this is the big, like, finishing off. Like, either stab him in, like, the head or something, or have a slower, bit of him dying or something. Everything you saw, I wanted you to see. Oh, sure, correct. Is it done? No, come on. Yeah, it is only begun. Or wait, no, it's referring to the movie. Thank goodness it is. Yes. So the movie is an hour and 45 minutes long without end credits, and an hour and 49 minutes with. So that brings us to the next section. Notes taken before watching. So this is the part where, at the start of this section, I talk about the other work that I know of by the people who made this. And I've already mentioned that I do not like DJ Caruso. This is one of the two movies I've watched by him. The other one was I Am Number 4. And I hate both of these movies. Again, I've heard good things about some other things by him, like Disturbia. Maybe I'll watch it at some point. I'm not saying for sure that I won't, but boy, are these two movies garbage. And the fact that, like, I remember when I Am Number 4 came out, there were actually critics that back then I, for some reason, respected, and they gave it a positive review. And the only thing I can think of is they forgot everything except the last 20 minutes, because the last 20 minutes, no, it's still bad, but if the last 20 minutes of the movie had been the first 20 minutes of the movie, then maybe the movie could have been good. But because it came after, I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes of nothing, it's so, I despise that movie. And it's not that like, I don't inherently have a problem with, I don't think that YA has to be bad. I just think that there are some YA that get popular that are unfortunately bad. But I maintain that all four Hunger Games movies, although the last two kind of should have been just one movie, but they are 3 good books and 4 good movies. And I don't know, they're still talking about, like, they're gonna do like a prequel or something. I'm interested, even if I can imagine that Jennifer Lawrence might not show up in it, or at most as a cameo or something. But yeah, I like the world. I like, it's not only the main characters and their core conflicts. I like the world and the overarching conflict and such. It's not that I Am Number 4 is bad because it's YA. It's bad and it's YA. And some of the bad things about it are things that are common to YA. But anyway. So yeah, this was produced by Mark Canton, who also produced 302. I know, it's technically called 300 Rise of an Empire, but I just love calling it 302. Piranha 3, Double D, Immortals, Piranha 3D, A Perfect Getaway, 300, Land of the Dead, Godsend, the Get Carter remake, and Jack Frost. I was gonna say the bad Jack Frost movie, but there's really no good Jack Frost movie, is there? The Michael Keaton Jack Frost, I'm pretty sure it is. So yeah, it's not, excuse me. There are some other bad movies that person produced. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. Writer. John, I'm going to go with Bokenkamp, who wrote. Hmm. Oh so he wrote like 4 movies total, and yeah, so it's The Call, Perfect Stranger, and Bad Seed, and I don't know any of them. And Perfect Stranger came out in 2007. The Call in 2013. So it's not that this movie completely destroyed his career. And he wrote a bunch of episodes of The Blacklist, and in fact created that show. I've heard some great things about that show. So yeah, I mean, it's not that he's untalented. He just did a bad job on this. And again, it's possible that that's true of DJ Caruso. He's made other movies. I've only watched 2 of them and heard about a third of them. Excuse me. And David Ayer, he did some writing on it. Wikipedia lists him as writing on it, albeit notes that he's uncredited, and IMDb confirms he did some writing on it. So, yeah, I know all his directorial work except Bright, Sabotage, and Suicide. I know I'll probably hate Bright, whatever. Sabotage and Suicide Squad I like despite their problems, and the rest of his directorial work I love. And I have only recently watched, U571 and Dark Blue. And I do believe this is the last. Now I have done a video, or as I'm doing, once I'm done with this video, I'll have done a video on every movie that David Ayer helped write, other than the first Fast and Furious movie, which for now at least, I'm still not watching that franchise. I know there are things about it that I would like, but it's just for now, I'm not watching it. But let's see. Yeah, so that brings us to Angelina Jolie. So yeah, I watched her in Bone Collector, Go Uninterrupted, Tomb Raider 1, Sky Captain, Alexander, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where I also love her, and that movie I love in general. Beowulf, which is also, it's great and she's great in it. Wanted, Changeling, and Salt. And again, she's so talented of an actress. I'm really glad that a movie like Changeling allows her to show that, yeah. And Ethan Hawke, who I've also seen in Sinister, Daybreakers, Lord of War, Assault on Precinct 13, Great Expectations, Gattaca, and Dead Poets Society. And him I quite like. I saw some saying that, he's like really hammy and over the top in this movie. I mean, once you know that he's Martin, yeah, there's definitely some ham, but I didn't really think he was that. For sure, he's sometimes more subdued in some of his other movies, but I really didn't think that. I forgot to put Training Day on that list. Anyway, yeah, obviously I've also watched Training Day since David Ayer wrote it. Anyway, yeah, I thought he was fine in this. Like, let's say that I was like binging Ethan Hawke movies. This probably wouldn't be one that I would choose to watch, or if I watched it, it wouldn't be one that I would really look forward to. I think he's especially good in stuff like Sinister. The rest of the movies that I've seen him in, he's better than this. I was gonna list them, but they're all of them. I think he's much better in all of the other movies. So, and let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much the other stuff I've seen them in. So let's see. Yeah, because it doesn't really affect. Okay, so yes, excuse me. I tend to find that movies and other pieces of creative expression should be allowed to go very far because that's sometimes how you get the best results. I very rarely call for limits, censorship, but the ending scene of this, where until it's revealed otherwise, the audience is led to believe that a pregnant woman was stabbed in the stomach, is repulsive. And before you bring up abortion, based on the size of the baby bump, it looked like she actually been pregnant. The baby would have been able to live outside the womb, so it would no longer be equivalent to her getting an abortion. You know, once the baby is viable outside the womb, it's illegal to get an abortion. And an abortion ideally is the request of the, you know, of the woman, maybe with, you know, and with advice from a doctor. You know, this is, yeah, this is not like that. It's so cheap and disgusting to try to get a shock out of the audience like that. And this is coming from someone who loves a number of movies where the health and safety of fetuses and or children is something that we're supposed to derive some suspense and even horror from, including Rosemary's Baby. I already mentioned Sinister. You know, Rosemary's Baby is one of the best horror movies ever made. And no, the fact that the movie almost immediately reveals that she wasn't actually pregnant does not make things better. It's just the movie wanting to have its cake and eat it too. The problem with the way the movie handles it is that it's intentionally trying to do something taboo, but it's not interested in actually exploring what it would be like to lose your baby because of outside forces. Rosemary's Baby does do that. You know, it hypothetically, if the movie had started with a woman losing her, you know, yeah, like the or if it happened like around the midway point, and yes, I know the movie would have to be completely changed, and yes, it should be. Basically, they just shouldn't have it there. They shouldn't have the pregnancy thing. The it's just incredibly gross to do this sort of thing and then not explore the consequences. You know, there are some incredible movies that are about, excuse me, the emotional impact of losing a baby, or, you know, ah, is it still called, I guess it's still called a fetus if it wasn't, yeah, if it dies before it's born, you know, those sorts of situations. I love Paul Dano, and it's not his fault, but the the scenes that he's in are just so stupid. The movie goes out of its way to convince us that the you know, one of these kids is a serial killer, and then it turns out to be the one we figured that it wasn't. So what? Red herrings are not that difficult, and honestly, the opening loses me almost immediately. It looks like, huh? I think some of my notes got mixed up here. Anyway, yeah. Oh, right, yeah. Because of the whole red herring thing, the movie basically loses me at that point. The movie is trying to make it seem like the military kid will be the killer. He's the one who approaches Dano. He's the one who's trying to get him to drink. You know, he's he's not aggressive as such, but he is the more, like, he's the one who goes out there and, like, you know, it looks like he's found a victim and he's trying to, you know, but yeah. Let's see. What's the other thing? I think I've seen him in other stuff too, the military academy kid, but excuse me. it's not their fault. You know, they do the best. Yeah. So let's see. Right, I noted to, you know, so I wrote to myself before. Let me think how to phrase this. Before watching the movie, I wrote, you know, this entire section is made up of notes I made before rewatching the movie. So I wanted to notice if, you know, since Ethan Hawke is not the most sinister, see what I did there, actor out there, does he pull off serial killer? Is he miscast? I thought he was perfectly decent once he really hammed it up as the serial killer, but yeah, it is a bit, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I kind of already pointed this out, but still, the jump scare where the killer is suddenly revealed to be hiding under the bed in the, you know, his mother's house is so stupid and utterly nonsensical. And I really don't know why. Maybe I missed it. If I missed it, please put it in the comments. As I could not figure out why Ethan Hawke, like, yeah, first Martin buries the body where, you know, Ileana points out, he buries it in a place where it'll be found. And then, like, you know, Martin pretends to be a key witness, you know, just this whole thing, like, I really cannot figure out why he doesn't just, like, see, this is where, if I edited footage from the movie, this is where I would put, like, you know, the where, yeah, I would trim to where you have the crap, what's it called, where you have, right, yeah, when where they, you know, they discover a dead body, and then, you know, trim to smash cut to Martin sizing up the guy who's having trouble getting cigarettes. You know, that's, I don't understand why he doesn't just do that immediately if it was that his one of the dead bodies was found before he had a chance to hide it. At the very least, like, just don't draw attention to, yeah. Right. So a couple things on the unrated cut when compared to the theatrical. In the unrated, Jolie says that she killed a 16-year-old TV thief at age 12 in her home, which explains a lot. And yeah, some of these, it's like, why did they cut this stuff? It's like, well, I know why. It would have made, you know, it's too edgy, but it explains so much about why she's behaving the way she is. And Costa shoots at Kiefer Sutherland after leaving the car, which is also, like, apparently in the theatrical cut, she still pulls a gun on him and it's like, put the gun down, put the gun down. And it's like, why is she doing that if he hasn't fired a single round? Like, you know, it just seems weirdly intense when compared. And let's see, and the elevator bit when, you know, we in the yeah, in the unrated cut, Costa cuts his mom's head off and looks kind of scarier than in the theatrical cut. And Angelina Jolie washing Costa off her is longer. So yeah, you know, I don't know, if you watch to this part of the video and you haven't watched either cut or something, it seems like the unrated cut is definitely a better version of the film. And yeah, you know, the movie reveals that Ileana realizes she slept with a monster, but the emotional and psychological effect of that, you know, that has on her isn't explored. The reveal is there to be salacious. And again, like, think about if, like, let's hypothetically, just a minor rewrite. Let's say that she's behaving, you know, she right from the start she has trouble with letting people get close to her or something, and then when she, you know, when we get to the part of the movie where she says, you know, she killed a 16-year-old who was stealing a TV, in the rewritten version, you could make it that she had, you know, well, wait, let's, 1 second. Then it would obviously be wrong if she was 12. Give me a second. Yeah, when she was 18, she had an 18-year-old boyfriend, and they had sex, and then he tried to steal her TV, and she killed him, not realizing that it was him. Like maybe he had his back turned, and she killed him, and then she realized it was him, so she felt really awful. Or I mean, that's not quite the same as, and I guess it wouldn't make a lot of sense for. Okay, yeah, it would have to be something that happened later in her life, that she had sex with a serial killer, and it. But I'm not saying don't do it in a movie. I'm just saying maybe don't do it if you're not actually going to explore what it does to. Yeah, I th- I th- I saw some user reviews say that they didn't really think Ileana's weird traits really amounted to anything. I think they watched the theatrical cut, and yeah, if the thing with her talking about the killing the TV thief is not in that version, yeah, I agree, it doesn't lead to anything. But if that is, you know, they shouldn't have removed that from there, or they should have downplayed the eccentric traits, because when you have both, it's like, oh well, yeah, you know, I mean, she's been living with this kind of thing for so many years. I try not to be mean in these, since I read a lot of user reviews, and some of these user reviews are just, you know, some of them say things that to me seems interesting, and I try not to be like a jerk to, excuse me. Some of the IMDb user reviews talk about there being no nudity and or no violence in this movie. I mean, I can only guess that they must have watched an edited for TV version. I'm just saying, if you're gonna put a review up, just look at the MPAA rating. It's literally on the same website that you're putting the review on. Just, I'm not asking you to read a long essay or something. It's just, it's in a few words. It's, anyway. I honestly only realized when others pointed out how little the details make sense when you look at the whole FBI agent thing in this movie. But it's very clear that the writer simply did not think about the fact that Canada is a very different country from America. You know, like, the FBI would not go to Canada the way that they go to various states in the US to hunt someone who commits crimes across state lines, you know. And there's that thing about how, like, they carry guns. I don't remember the details, but it's the IMDb goofs about how, like, is it that she would not be allowed to carry a gun because she's not technically working for the Canadian law enforcement. I forget, but yeah, just like the writers are so used to writing for America, so they didn't. Yeah, and some user reviews point out that the movie explores how close some serial killer hunters are to serial killers yeah, I thought it was perfectly decent in that. And I will grant, certainly Ileana Scott is a memorable character. You know, there are a bunch of these movies where, excuse me, I couldn't tell you much of anything about the person hunting serial killers in the movie because they're such a stock character. But here, she's definitely memorable. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so I watched some YouTube videos about this. I let's see. One second. Yeah, trailers. So let's see. Oh, never mind. The trailer did not pretend that it was actually like a coming of age thing with Paul Dano on the road. It opens on the mother talking about how disturbed and dangerous her son was. No, is. They clearly really love that line. I don't know. It just doesn't really do much for me that the yeah. And each of these character introduced to Ethan Hawke was understandably very upset. We get to see him very upset. We've now seen him very upset. We see the car crash in the start of the movie, a lot of flash cuts. And it says something terrible is going to happen. Then we get a title reveal. Is the trailer implying that the movie is terrible? Guess again, maybe the editor was trying to get fired, and it's pretty cool that he managed to get it past. Anyway, right, and yeah, and there was another trailer where it's like 2 minutes. I think it's just the first 2 minutes. Yeah, I forgot to check. Let's see. I watched it. Uh, 1 second. Oh, I was actually not. Yeah, okay, 3 weeks ago, I guess. But yeah, I forgot to watch it again to check. But I think the 2 minutes thing is just the first 2 minutes of the movie. Sometimes I don't understand the stuff that gets uploaded to YouTube as trailer. Just like if it's the first 2 minutes of the movie, just write Taking Life's opening instead of Taking Life's trailer. Anyway, and there's a 15-second TV spot, which is not bad. And then there is 8 minutes and 9 seconds of interview with Angelina Jolie, Ethan Hawke, and Olivier Martinez. That's from 2004. And all of them are sitting at the table at the same time. That's an interesting. But yeah, there's some interplay because of it, so not a bad choice. And let's see. Yeah, some pretty decent. Like, it's worth watching if you have 8 minutes to pass or you want some more information about the movie. And there's a 3-minute gag reel, and yeah, very funny, and it's just, yeah, that's what I'm going to leave it at. And wow, I really should. I gotta remember to trim that stuff out of my notes in the future. Anyway, that brings us to third section, final section, called Critic Sites, IMDb, and Wikipedia. 2012 was when I first watched it, yeah. Let's see. This has 22% on the tomato meter, which, yeah, I think that is pretty appropriate. And it has a 55% audience score. So, let's see. Yeah, so audience, sorry, critics, 100, what was that, like 3 sentences I started and then immediately gave up on? Okay, here we go. 159 total critics ratings and only 35 fresh. I don't know what those 35 saw in the movie, but whatever. And let's see. Oh, right, yeah, okay. So one of them says, from the opening credits, it was nearly impossible to shake the feeling that Taking Lives was desperately trying to be the next Seven. So, yeah, that reviewer does think that it was trying to be, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I can see what he means. Yeah, it doesn't really change anything. I don't really have anything to add about it. Several people say it's not actually thrilling. I mean, I've already mentioned, I think chunks of it are legitimately funny, and I don't think they're meant to be. Again, other than the bit with the, he owes $90 on his phone bill thing. There are definitely attempted jokes in here, but a lot of, excuse me, my back is acting up there. But I don't think it's scary or. Caruso sets up an initially intriguing premise, however gruesome, that unfortunately devolves into a welter of aimlessness, too many red herrings, and B-movie hammy performances. Several people say, excuse me, Ashley Judd should have been in. See, if some Ashley Judd movies had been on the list of movies like this on IMDb, that would have made sense. I've watched like 2 of the ones she did about serial killers, and I think it might be kind of telling that I honestly don't even remember. Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't remember the names of them. I think uh, wasn't one of them. Crap, what's his name? Uh, Red from The Shawshank Redemption. I don't remember. And anyway, Taking Lives is bad. Ashley Judd bad. So bad it's mostly an unwatchable mess, but also so bad it's almost good. See, yeah, if you watch it as a comedy, as like a stealth parody or something, let's see. Dig deeper than the classy looks at the shovel full of psychological topsoil, and there's nothing here that hasn't been done better. That hasn't been done before and done better. Nope, that is an engine. That is in fact an engine. Just that today it was removed, but yesterday there was like a warning about thunder and lightning today, although, you know, that was okay. That that was some hours ago, but still. So I'm gonna be listening for, yeah. Excuse me. I got somewhere between 4 and 6 hours of sleep last night, and 4 of them were actually in a row. So that's a, it's not a record, but it is. I'm always relieved when I don't wake up once per hour. To be fair, sometimes when I wake up once per hour, I do fall asleep again very soon, but still. There's a certain type of detective you only find in the movies. The sort who solves murders by lying in a victim's grave. Excuse me. I promise you, I will, wash my hands and wash my face very carefully before I go out. I realize that touching my face is not best during COVID, but I am at home right now, and I'm definitely washing my hands and face before I go out among people. So, you will probably walk away shaking your head in disbelief. And and still. Okay. One of those infuriating films that both invites you to try to figure out the plot and also plays fast and loose with facts to fudge the details. The best bet might have been to ditch the tedious police procedural and just let the flick turn into the shamelessly jumpy creep fest it was born to be. Really. Right. Yeah. The reviews I am quoting and commenting on here are the critics' reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And sorry, I don't always remember to cover my mouth when I know some people really freak out over that. I remember one of my teachers used to really Okay. Nosedive it does, abandoning all pretense of style and eccentricity for at times laughable predictability. Would have to work nights to reach mediocrity. I swear, I try to get most of that kind of thing out of my system before I hit record, but sometimes, yeah. Excuse me. What the movie accomplishes in misogyny, it nearly equals in lack of imagination. Very true. There's sadly a lot of misogyny in movies like this. I'll briefly say I do get the appeal of the very ending of Ileana outsmarting Martin the way he's been Martin outsmarting others for all those years. But she, again, I don't think the pregnant, you know, yeah, the pregnancy thing should have been there. Let's see. Okay, I am going to skim until I find. Okay. And okay, almost all the way through the Rotten Tomatoes critic reviews. Okay, let's see. At a certain point, Taking Lives gives up any pretense towards sense and starts piling up insanely improbable extravagances. Very true. And that brings us to the, excuse me, user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. The big reveal was more confusing than shocking. Now, let's see. Yeah, this is a really good point. For a person to kill, lacking reality, for a person to kill off a person, then assume their identity, even paying off some taxes without anyone noticing, is laughable. They also do not bury a body unless identifying the person through records, sort of the crap movie you've seen many times and wish not wasted your time. How I hate this movie is beyond words. And okay. Yeah, let's see. I think this might be. Hmm, okay. And I apologize for the dead air. There's a lot. That brings us to Metacritic. So starting with the critic reviews. Comparatively restrained in cramming sick and grisly stuff down the audience's throat. Excuse me. as far as I could tell, the meta score is 58. And yeah, Metacritic user reviews, and it has a 2.2. I think that's out of 10. And it has 139 ratings. Yeah, 22 positive, 21 mixed, 96 negative. So that's, yeah. And that brings us to the IMDb stuff. And there's only one tagline: "He would kill to be you." It is very rare for me to see a tagline that I don't like. And it has 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb. 77,850 users. And 11.7% gave it 8, 25.2 gave it 7, 28.5 gave it 6, 14.3 gave it 5. So yeah. So it does have some people who think fairly highly of it, but a lot. So, yeah. And trivia. Yeah, the source novel's character equivalent to Ileana is James Costa, a British museum curator. Martin Asher's analog is Martin Arkenhout, a native of Holland. Yeah, sorry, I am not good at Dutch names, so that's as close as that's gonna get. Dutch, Holland, Netherlands. Must be really confusing to explain that to people who don't already know. Anyway, and the prime settings of the novel are England and Portugal. Yeah, screenwriters Nicholas Kazan, Hilary Zeitz, and David Ayer worked on revisions for John Bokenkamp's script. Angelina Jolie and Ethan Hawke both worked with Denzel Washington. Jolie worked with him 5 years before in Bone Collector. Hawke worked with him 3 years before in Training Day. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the goofs section, I'm gonna try to find stuff that is interesting. Yeah, this is quite well written. The three lead police investigators all speak with Parisian French accents. Quebec French is as distinct from Parisian French as British English is distinct from North American English. So, yeah, I have to admit, I can't really tell. I don't know. It's been a long time since I even, excuse me, attempted to speak any French. So I really can't tell, but and a lot of people probably also don't know, but that's, yeah, everybody understands that comparison. It's too bad. French is a beautiful language. I'm not really, English is the only foreign language that I speak. I like to drop that in every so often because a lot of people assume that I'm American because I have such a neutral accent. I don't mind being mistaken for American. I just like messing with people. But I am not American. I've been to America, but I wasn't born there, and I've never lived there for an extended period of time. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Plot holes. Costa buys Ileana a handgun for her own protection. Handguns in Canada are restricted weapons and can't simply be purchased like they are in the States. They're also only used for collecting or for target practice. You can't use one in self-defense. So they straight up, like, that is a huge, and again, I get a lot of people don't realize it because they don't think about the differences between Canada and America because so many movies like this are set in America. But yeah, that's a huge deal, Must have been very frustrating to watch as a Canadian. Must have had a lot to complain about. Yeah, I just want to. I love Canadians, don't get me wrong. After Duvall is killed in the galley, he is referred to as Agent Duvall. Canadian law enforcement does not have an agency. Just like when this was written, Google existed, Wikipedia, I think, existed. So just look this stuff up, instead of just. I mean, ultimately, the movie doesn't get that much out of being set in Canada. I mean, there's some, I guess, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what I would even point to, excuse me, as stuff the movie gets out of being set in Canada instead of America. Excuse me. Factual errors. When Costa puts Hart's dead body in the car, it clearly is secured with the seatbelt. That would prevent the head from hitting the windshield at all in the first place, even more so to hit it so hard as to actually break a hole big enough for the head to protrude. It makes no sense. And you see in the flashback, like, the gun, like, if this is the seatbelt, that's what's, it's so tight up against, excuse me. That's why the it looks like the gun is pointing, the seatbelt is, and I could, seatbelts can get pretty tight, so that, but, like, if the gun slipped, then suddenly it would look like, yeah, anyway. Let's see. Yeah, and, I've already talked about some of the things wrong with the pregnant stomach, but this is also, and again, this is factual error. At the conclusion of the film, when Costa stabs Eliana in the stomach because he thinks she's pregnant with his child, he doesn't notice or register that there's no blood or fluid coming out of the location where the scissors were thrust into her pregnant stomach, in quotes. Something like that would have been extremely obvious to a calculating psychopath like Costa, when he was looking right at Ilyana and her stomach after stabbing her, and Ilyana should not have had that much time to fake being injured before she ripped the scissors out of the prosthetic bump and fatally stabbed Costa in turn. Very true. It really, it's one of those, excuse me, suddenly, it's one of those things where in a screenplay, suddenly a character is completely unlike the, you know, yeah, suddenly they're mistaking things like that when they otherwise wouldn't have. And quotes. Now, let's see. I don't think. Hmm, yeah, there's not really anything. So, yeah. And that brings us to Wikipedia. And I am. Okay, so yeah, first there's the Wikipedia for the book. Apparently, in the book, the it's not that Martin pushes the the other guy in front of a car. It's apparently that yeah, it just is he's trying to summon help on the roadside and he's struck by a passing car, left critically injured. So and that does also yeah, I am not terribly surprised that they changed that for an American movie. Made it the killer killing instead. Yeah, and yes, this is very different. So yeah, Costa is a museum curator, and yeah, there's an art professor named Hart, but sorry, Martin is posing as him, and Costa and Martin cross paths. Martin is unaware that the real Hart had stolen rare manuscripts from a British museum. Costa, representing the museum, pursues the man he believes to be Hart as far as Portugal, hoping to regain the missing manuscripts. As fate would have it, yeah. It's just that does sound interesting. I like if they make, excuse me, if they actually do make a movie based on the novel that's not just taking so little from it, that might be interesting. And that brings us to Wikipedia for the movie itself. Wow. $45 million budget and $65 million box office. That is, that's smarts. Smarter than a bee sting. And let's see. Okay, yeah, the Wikipedia does seem to list Paul Dano, and the guy who plays Matt from the Justin Chaplin. I'm gonna look up afterwards what it is I've seen him in, but yeah, I quite like him. And the fact that I like him must mean that I've seen him in something that wasn't this. Wow. There is very little on the Wikipedia page for it. Holy crap. I'm like halfway through the notes already, and it's only been 2 hours. That's been a while since it was that. And anyway, so yeah, IMDb has 332 user reviews total. I do find it a little surprising there aren't more, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it deserves to have more, but anyway, IMDb user reviews. Now, let's see. Yeah, this person points out there's zero chemistry between Angelina and Ethan. It wasn't believable that she fell for him. Yeah, and this person really points out how bad the yeah the detective hitting Ileana is. What else? I really enjoyed Kiefer's 3.7 seconds of screen time. Now, just skim until I find one that I really want to comment on. Excuse me. The witness's protective police detail mysteriously drops from 4 officers inside the building to one patrol car outside the building in less than 24 hours. just as the suspect conceals himself inside the building. Now, several people talk about how they figure out immediately that Ethan Hawke was going to turn out to be the killer, and how how obvious it is, how frustrating it was to them that it did turn out to be that. And this is a quite good review. I am, 1 second. Okay, so it's written by, I don't know if this is how to pronounce it, Hondi 4 on the 15th of July 2005. And they, let's see, yeah, they write, no explanation is offered, as far as I recall, I may have dozed off, as to why the victims were mutilated. I'm fairly certain that the idea is supposed to be that the face is destroyed beyond recognition, and the hands are cut off so that the dead body can't be identified by face. I don't know what exactly that's called. By recognizing the face or by taking their fingerprints or such. Although, I mean, DNA is still a thing. They could just like take a little bit of blood and, or wait, or is that not a thing once the person is dead? I'm not 100% sure. And anyway, I think that's the explanation. I chuckled at the Jolie finds secret room by breeze rustling plant plot, which was lazily stolen from countless other films, e.g. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The romance scene with Jolie is laughable. It's about as sexy as a piece of damp cardboard. Let's see. Kiefer Sutherland is utterly wasted. He makes a comically brief appearance, adding nothing to the plot whatsoever. And the scenes he does make an appearance, he can only be described as looking bored. Oh, and the denouement. That has to be seen to be believed. Can anyone begin to explain this to me? Why, for heaven's sake, does Jolie take to living in a remote farmhouse, faking a pregnancy for 8 months on the assumption that Hawke may be spying on her? Why not issue a manhunt for Hawke? Let's face it, they have a pretty good indication of what he looks. Ah, that is good. Just excellent job. Just really sinking in the dagger, twisting the blade. Like, let's face it, they have a pretty good indication of what he looks like. Yeah, like, it really is. They literally know exactly what he looks like at this point. Just, yeah. It's okay, this person gave it a 2 out of 10. Taking liberties, more like. At one point in this film, FBI agent Jolie goes to the house of a serial killer to talk with his mom. She twigs that mom is hiding something and has blocked off the door to a basement room. Jolie breaks in during the wee small hours and goes down to the room. She lies on the bed. Suddenly, the killer's arm crashes through the bed, grips her, and throws her across the room. I jumped out of my skin. But then when I calmed down, I thought, what was the mom hiding that room for? Why was the killer lying under the bed in a deserted house? Why did he punch through the bed? Why did he not kill Jolie? That one scene is indicative of this whole movie. Sloppy, substandard, derivative, join the dots with a crayon filmmaking. Throw in a horror movie, boo, shout, and never mind if it makes absolutely no sense in terms of the plot. I mean, it really is. Like, the movie, the fact that there's someone hiding under the bed actively makes the movie worse. Because there's really no good reason for it. Like, let's hypothetically say that's Martin. What was he going to do if if Ileana had managed to stop him or like recognize him or something? Like, what if there was a single other cop? What if there was a cop standing, like, maybe she brought a lookout and he was standing there, like, every so often he would look, see if anyone was watching, and otherwise he's standing in front of the door in there. If Martin runs up the stairs and the guy is there and Ileana is down there, he might not be able to get out of there without being positively identified. It's just, why would he do this whole thing? I mean, I don't know, I guess maybe there's some chance that, like, in reality it's like a homeless person or something, but then that doesn't make that much sense either. I mean, it definitely can't be Kiefer Sutherland's character, right? Because he doesn't even have an actual connection to Martin. He has a connection to Costa, or to Martin posing as Costa. It's just, excuse me, and like, if all you wanted was for something to, like, jump out of the camera, just excuse me, just have like like part of the ceiling cave in or something. It didn't have to be just, yeah. I quite like, this is a one-line summary. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something gruesome. That's very, yes, I like that. Excuse me. This person gave it a 3 out of 10, and the one-line summary is, caution, serial killer at work. Now, let's see. He's talking about the end. They're talking about the ending, and writes, she appears to be preposterously pregnant with Hawk's child. I like that way of putting it. And yeah, points out the last 10 climactic minutes turn into a woman in jeopardy. For those who don't know what that stands for, or it's a shortening of. Is the opposite of shortening or lengthening? Toloning. And okay. Some of them talk about that it would have been interesting if they delved more into Angelina Jolie's character, what made her the way she is, and such. And yeah, and some bring up the whole thing with what's it called? How the her being Graves doesn't really lead to anything, and I already mentioned in the unrated edition it does. So, okay, this person gave it a 2 out of 10, and one line summary is mediocre formula thriller. I hired a DVD of this feeble movie for $1 and was sorry that I had wasted almost 2 hours of my life. I kept watching only because I was hoping for an explanation of the various mysteries it throws up. For example, how does a serial killer take over the identity of a series of victims without running into problems such as encountering the real person's friends? How does he get a driver's license or a bank account? In the first of his murders, when he shoves an acquaintance in front of a truck on a smooth roadway, why does the vehicle fly into the air and somersault to destruction? Thank you. Why does the killer's mother have photos of her son only as a child but not as a teenager? Why does someone you owe money to lurk about in the shadows but not meet you face to face until the plot requires it? Why does a kidnapped victim with a gun at his head drive at high speed through a city instead of switching off the ignition? Why does a cop who's supposed to be guarding a potential victim wait out in the street next to a taxi? Now, The Talented Mr. Ripley Part 2. Now, yeah, that eyes. I get the feeling that I might sleep. I hope I catch up on sleep tonight. And there's some chance I'll sleep some of the afternoon. Some people point out how obviously different, like, it's, how, yeah, the thing with the using the Canadian setting, that they don't do a good job of, like, yeah, there are various things that they various mistakes they make related to that. And I don't really have anything to add to what they say. Yeah, if you want to know that, the reviews are on IMDb. And okay. I guess that might be about what there is. Some reviewers, point out that Angelina Jolie has done far better and list the movies where she's better than here. And one person says, take my life and give me back my money. I get the joke, but I mean, if they take your life, then your money is not going to be, if you don't have your life, what good is the money? But anyway. Taking lives, or taking 2 hours of my life that I'll never get back. I mean, this movie really did walk right into jokes like that, with that kind of title. But I will admit, it is kind of a cute double meaning, taking lives as a euphemism for killing, and doesn't sound quite as aggressive to say they took their, that person took their life or something, instead of killed, and taking the life, like taking the literal, their identity, basically, that meaning of the word life. But yeah, it really walks right into jokes about taking time that and taking things from other movies and such and such and such. And I guess that's actually it. That is me having skimmed through the entire list. Take my life, please. There are some reviews where they really liked it. I'm not sure I really have much to add. I've gone through all of my notes now. I mean, it is kind of wild that this has so little when you look at IMDb and Wikipedia, like, compared to, like, there are movies that are much older and less, like, I mean, I realize that not a lot of people liked it, according to the pages I checked, at least, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Metacritic, but people did watch it, like, everybody knows about it. Like I said, I only watched it in, I want to say, 2012, but I knew about it, even back in 2004, I heard about certain aspects of it, obviously. So, yeah, anyway, I think I've already pretty much said, I went into some stuff that I would rewrite, as well as why and how I'd rewrite it. It is very strange that they cast actual French people instead of Canadians. Like, it's honestly, I can't help but wonder in if it's sort of middle finger to French Canadian, the I mean, it is kind of like Hollywood types saying, whatever, they speak French. You know, I don't care if they're from France or if they're from Canada. I don't care. They speak French. We'll cast some French people. You know, there's some great actors who are Canadian, although a lot of them tend to try to pass for American. But you know, anyway, I don't think that the movie had to be bad. I think that you can make movies. The ones I watched with Ashley Judd, I remember them as being better than this. Yeah. And again, this is a genre I like. I've watched a lot of movies that are about trying to catch a killer before they go for the next victim and that sort of thing. And I've always enjoyed the trying to piece the all the parts together, all the puzzle pieces together to try to figure out who's doing it and what the next victim will be and such. I mean, when I was a kid, I was huge into Sherlock Holmes, for example. So this movie should have been better and it should have worked for me. And yeah, I do think the fact that it doesn't really speaks to a bad script and direction that doesn't really address the bad script elements. And there's some real miscasting. I saw that some people really didn't like Jolie's performance. I think she does what she. I don't think that she's to blame, at least. But yeah, sometimes her character is kind of weird for the sake of being weird. Like maybe it was to make sure that you remember her character at least, because a lot of these serial killer hunters are very bland. When you go past the classic, obviously Sherlock Holmes is very memorable, but yeah. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, I like the cast and the concept. There's a lot in here that I really think very highly of. So the fact that I didn't like the overall, the result, yeah, does kind of speak to the yeah. So let me think. I think that is wow. It feels very. It's a by my standards today. This is a very short video, less than yeah. It's 2 hours and just under 24 minutes. But I guess that is it. I don't really have anything to add. It also was like the section of me going over specific stuff from the movie wasn't as long as it has been other times. Let's see. I yeah, I don't think there's really anything. I would just be restating what I said or what somebody else said really well. As a yeah. So that is let's see. Um, I feel like there's one more thing. Excuse me. I think what could it be? Yeah, I do kind of agree with those that say that you know Martin or Costa, whatever, Costa and Ileana together really are not. Wait a second, was his name Martin? It's just there's a Martin DaCosta and a Martin. And anyway, yeah, um, yeah. So Costa and Scott together, they really didn't like light the screen on fire or anything. They really didn't have very strong chemistry. And let's see, yeah, the I think it's too bad you know, it's a waste of a great cast. I've seen literally everyone do better elsewhere. I'm not 100% certain if I've seen Gina Rowlands in something else, but I can imagine she's done better. But literally everybody else, like I can point to specific stuff. I didn't look up her, excuse me, other work because she wasn't listed as one of the stars of the movie on IMDb. But I don't judge her based on this. I'm gonna fully say something that I sort of hinted at earlier. Hypothetically, if this was the first film I watched with any of these people, this movie would not make me interested in seeing their other work. And that is criminal when you think about how talented they are. But their talent, I mean, a lot of the time it doesn't shine through, and certainly they don't make that strong of an impression, at least not in a positive way. Yeah, that is absolutely everything. So I hope you enjoyed watching. As I watched and enjoyed recording, and I'll